Welcome, everybody. We are covering followers versus engagement today with social media. I'm going to share kind of the mentality a lot of people have had in the beginning has been specifically around the fact that you just need to concentrate on getting as many followers as you can, right? And we're finding more and more often that that really doesn't work. It doesn't translate into sales or profitability for your business or your brand. So it's really more about engagement. And we'll talk kind of through what all of that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here with you and we can get started. So mentality behind followers is pretty simple. How many people you have following you on any given profile. So that's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can always see your follower count for your business. Engagement is something totally different. So engagement specifically is any interaction with your account, how someone else is interacting with that content. So that can look a lot of different ways. That could be a like, a comment, sharing some of your content to another person, even via direct message. We'll kind of get into that a little bit, but the idea is that people are actually engaging with what you are saying, what you're providing them with. And engagement really comes down to being the most important rate and kind of metric insight that you want to be aware of at any given point in time. So to come up with your engagement rate, it's pretty simple. You really just take the engagement number, you divide that by the number of followers that you have, and you divide that by the number of days. So I did a little instance of that here at the bottom for our specific Keller Williams Instagram page only. So for the last 2 days, I've had 2 posts. And that was the first post, or I should say, the most recent post, I guess we'll start there, had 13 likes on it, right? So 13 likes on the latest post. We had 397 followers at the time. So that equals out to 0.032. That's what we have for engagement from that one post. The second to last post had 14 likes out of the same 397 for followers. That gives us 0.035. So when you add those together and you divide by 2 for the 2 days that they were posted, that's where we get our engagement rate of 3.35%. So this doesn't really mean so much over a 2-day span. That's just kind of the easiest way that I could show it out. But really you kind of want to look at monthly or yearly what you have for engagement to get a better median and average of how people are actually interacting with what you're posting. As you can tell from this, you could have, 10,000 followers and still only have maybe 20 likes or 20 engagements with a post. Your engagement rate is going to be really, really low. And this is where it is important to keep that in mind and to say, okay, even if I am going to concentrate on growing my follower count right now, I'm still getting pretty good engagement from those who are following. Average engagement rate is anywhere from 1 to 5%. And above average is that 5 to 10%. And then 10% to 15 is really, really good. You've zoned in on the content that you're giving to your audience. It's nearly unheard of to get above a 20% engagement rate. So really focusing in and saying, okay, if I can kind of bump into at least that for us with Instagram into that 5 to 10% engagement rate is kind of what the goal is right now. As far as engagement rate and why it's important to know about it, it really comes down to the fact that whether we like it or not, it plays a big role in how much visibility you have on every social platform. So the algorithms that exist for a reason. They want consumers, audience, followers, people, right, that have accounts to see and have access to the content that they think is going to be of most interest to them, of most value to them. That's why anytime that we search for something online to buy, right, or we've been looking at patio furniture, then we'll get ads for that on our social sites, right? They really want to keep tabs on you, keep track of what it is that you're interested in, what other people are interested in, that have your similar shared interests, and then flood your feed with all of that content. So those algorithms are set up to a point where we might not have control over how they work, but we have control over how to utilize them to get them to work for us. Knowing that engagement rate will help you kind of be able to increase and bump yourself up in the algorithm for whether it's a search or followers that already exist. And then it's also important because connecting with your audience is able to be trackable in this way. So you can send out notes, you can send out emails and see, using MailChimp, maybe you can see the rate at which things were opened, right? You want to have that feedback and know, okay, are people actually seeing what I'm doing? Are they responding to it in any certain way? This kind of gives you insight as to whether or not the content that you're producing is relevant to the lives, relevant to your clients, if you're connected with the right people, and basically kind of looking at the broader spectrum, especially for our industry, the awareness of what value you're able to offer them as a business to your clients. A lot of these things that we talk about with social, really, you could pare them all the way back and look at it from a perspective of like original networking and connecting with your database, people that are still doing phone calls every day and how much that really does make a difference. So a lot of this stuff is easy to kind of see how they relate. Now it's just on social. But to dive deeper in, there's 3 different types of engagement. So there's reaction engagement, amplification engagement, and direct response engagement. You really want to have all 3 of these ideally in order for your brand and your profiles to be really successful. Reaction engagement is the easiest one to come by. Someone liking a post, someone commenting on something, or following your page. Those are all things that people kind of can do and feel like, I don't really have to invest too much, right? I could always go back and unfollow that page, or maybe I'll see more of their stuff, but I don't have to like the rest of their content. So it's the easiest to come by for sure is reaction engagement. But it does prove that people are taking in the content that you're producing and they're liking, they're relating to it. You're doing something right in that. You can kind of go through and dissect goodness if you have a content strategy and like digital marketing campaigns and say, okay, people were always responding to these couple of topics that I posted. There's one post since I've been working with Keller Williams that has actually been direct shared. And you can view that on Instagram underneath a post. If you have a business profile, it'll say right on it, view insights, and you can go and view each individual insight for each individual post. And the only one that people have liked it, people have commented on it, but the only one that's ever been shared to other people or to their own profile is a quote by Gary Keller. And the second one that I've then posted that was a quote, we also had folks that shared that. So there's something to that, right? That whoever our followers are at the time, largely in the real estate industry as agents or as brokers, they are being fueled by this idea of, a business mentality or career growth. And that's something that has responded to them. So then that tells me, okay, I need to make sure that I'm continuing to include those so that they're going to be able to share them with other people. That kind of goes into this amplification engagement. So that specifically shares, people messaging their friends, or when they repost something, they share something to their story. This is saying that the audience is so impressed that they're actually taking your content and pushing it out to people that don't even follow you, right? So this is a level up from just the reaction. This gives you a huge opportunity to increase your follower count. If people send each other something for long enough from your profile, you start to go, I should be following that profile. Why am I not getting everything that they're posting? My friend keeps sharing this, or this was a great insight. So that is really huge. I think that for real estate in general, properties and market tips, insider information that maybe the general public doesn't feel like they have access to, that is really going to kind of put people in a position where they would want to be able to share those insights and that information with folks in their circle, friends or family, right? And then direct response engagement is basically when people are taking another step outside of the social platform. So anything from subscribing to your YouTube channel, to a newsletter, or signing up, actually purchasing something through you, becoming a client, right? It's kind of making the bridge from the platform to what your actual business does. So in the mentality that followers
are. Can I ask a question, Katie?
Yes.
So back on that previous slide, if they just like were to call you, then it might not be known on the social media that there was a direct response.
Correct.
Like in a real estate world where that could happen. Okay.
Yep. And I think that that's a good point, is that how are you keeping tabs on your database? There definitely has to be, there's things that exist outside of social, right, that you're still going to want to know about. But it would be great if you already knew, okay, I'm engaging with this person on social. Maybe they've, sent me a message about something that I posted. They were interested in this house. And you still then have that kind of data to backtrack onto.
And does it ever keep track? Like if you got the, I think a DM, like the direct message, it would know that, or it would track that from like a response or something if it was more of a private message compared to.
Yep. Cool. Those would, like, they don't go anywhere unless you were to get rid of them. But when you go into insights, you're able to kind of, as long as you have a business profile, you're able to view some of that stuff too, of how many you got per month, all of that stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Growing your sphere. So this kind of talks about the mentality that, right, we want to increase followers. Everyone's going to want to say, how do I get more followers? I need to be able to have more of an audience for the things I want to share and therefore grow my business. But the mentality behind it really starts with engagement first. So it doesn't have to be an either or. Growing your sphere is kind of the same exact mentality of how to grow your follower count on Instagram or Facebook. The mentality is that social media basically just opens up your audience so that you're not limited to those that you are coming in contact with or referred to or run into through experiences in life. And just to give some perspective on how much social media does make a difference for a business, whatever that brand or business may be. There's a couple of statistics here. So 71% of consumers who have had a positive experience with a brand on social media are likely to recommend that business to their friends and family. So that's telling us right away, 7 out of 10 people basically would go ahead and recommend whoever that brand or that business was just because of a positive experience they had on social. So that doesn't even necessarily say that they utilized that realtor or utilized that business or bought a new product from them. But if they had a great comment back from that person, or brand sought them out and liked their content, they now have a positive mentality version of who that brand is and would say, oh yeah, I've seen them online. You should definitely get that, right? Make that recommendation is huge. And then 8 in every 10 Americans have a social media profile. So it's really the easiest way to tackle people through a marketing strategy right now. And it lends itself to creating relationships as well, which I think is very important for the real estate industry. So in order to, we've talked a little bit about engagement, we'll talk a little bit more, but to focus on followers specifically, in order to track your clientele or to track down your followers, you have to know who they are, right? This can get really in depth. I mean, there are brands and businesses that do this to an nth degree to know, this is what this person drinks and what they buy for presents. I mean, it can get really intense, but it doesn't have to be so intense for social media. What you really just want to know is have an idea of who it is that your audience is, who you're trying to reach, right? Our Instagram and Facebook profiles for Keller Williams Minnetonka, I know that we are specifically trying to reach our agents and other agents that maybe aren't with our brokerage, right? That is our main clientele. Does that mean that there aren't folks that will come to our profile that are other businesses or what have you? Of course, but that is really who I'm trying to gear everything to. So for an agent or for a real estate business, you really have to think of, okay, 3 different types of categories of grouping who your audience is going to be, who your followers will be. And I break these down into three different categories of entertainment, career, industry, and region. But this might look different. It could be something else, right? It could be activities. It could be age group. There could be a lot of different things that you do. But I think these three are pretty universal across brands. So to kind of tackle who that clientele is and who you're looking for, put yourself in the consumer shoe, into your client shoe. Who is it, that you've done business with in the past? What did they look like? What were they interested in? And kind of answer some of these questions. So for entertainment, like restaurants, shops, music, travel, events, activities, sports, all of those things you're able to track and follow on social media. So the mentality is people that are going to be interested in certain sections of this are going to follow that on social media. Same with career and industry. There might be industry specific profiles for real estate. Maybe if you're not tackling that, maybe you're specifically looking at people that are investors in properties, but there's going to be some aspects of career and industry that you can kind of follow along with the people that follow you. Region is the same. So that's a little bit more basic, like local neighborhood shops, bars, restaurants, state attractions, things that are new and noteworthy within your state or your city. All of these things are great to yourself as the business follow along with, so that you know the content that your followers are seeing and engaging with. And you're also now given an opportunity on a separate platform to engage with a new audience. So let's say, for instance, you have Minnesota State Fair that you follow, and okay, this is a great institution of Minnesota. I want to be about that brand. I love going to the state fair. And when they post something, you go on into the comment section, maybe you write a comment, but you look at what other people have posted and you interact with that comment. Someone says, I can't wait for the egg roll on a stick. Oh my gosh, me too. That's my favorite thing. Now, this person who has commented on a social media post for the Minnesota State Fair is suddenly in a conversation with you, right? With your business, with your brand. I think especially in the realm of real estate, this is so easy to do, and it really does lend itself to that relationship building aspect. And I think it's healthy to be obviously really authentic about this sort of stuff. You don't need to go scavenging for days to find all the different comments to reply to everyone in the world, but to bring some of your personality out in it, to humanize yourself, and then have the opportunity to then connect with people. It's easier than a door knock in that mentality, right? But the same idea. So then essentially out of this, the mentality is that engagement creates engagement. I was asked recently, what is the best way to increase your engagement? And the reality is that when you engage on social media, you see your engagement increase. This looks a lot of different ways, but a thing that has been now dubbed as a very overshared phrase, but is very true, is don't post and ghost. So lots of people will have a post that they're ready for. Maybe they've lined out their whole month in advance. I know the timing, I've scheduled it, this post is happening. But that post goes out and there's no engagement. They're not online, maybe even at the time. Sometimes this can work out, but if you don't engage with anyone that whole day, your post is going to go to the bottom of the barrel for anyone to see. That's just how an algorithm works. If in fact you're interacting with your followers throughout the day, or what is recommended is usually 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after, then you are going to see your engagement climb. The algorithm will see this person is online, they're engaging with these people. This person that they just messaged probably wants to see the post that they just shared, and you're going to get sent higher and higher up the feed. This can look a lot of different ways. It can just be through likes, it can be through comments, direct messages. I really recommend that people, if they haven't responded to comments that have been on a post from before, that they respond to comments from the post before after they post their new post. If you don't have comments, maybe it looks different than that. Maybe it looks like you actually scrolling through the feed and commenting on the top 10 realtors or people in industry in your region, right? And engaging with those people through their content to then get more higher visibility for you. But the mentality that, engagement can just happen with your posts just because of how great your content is, unfortunately, is not really always the case. Yes, you have to have great content and you have to have a great base and foundation so that when people get to your profile, they stay and they come back. But if you're not engaging and utilizing the resources of social, it's not going to work for your business either. There's some things that are easy enough to do, that don't have to take a ton of time. And honestly, scrolling is one of them. When you have a business profile and you've never scrolled through the news feed, you can tell because you're like, okay, there's a bunch of sponsored ads in here and there's no direction on who this person follows because you've never looked at anyone else's stuff. So it really is important, even if it's just for that 10 or 20 minutes a day, to go ahead and do those steps to search for in your search bar, the people that you want to see, that you want to follow, that you want to come up first on your newsfeed so that then you can interact with more. This kind of lends itself into content strategy. Obviously, this is a whole bigger conversation and topic that maybe we'll cover at some point in the future, but I wanted to touch on it because it is really, really at the core of this mentality of both follower increase and engagement increase. If you don't have solid content and a strategy behind that content, you are not going to see your numbers continue to increase or rise. And I think people overthink content strategy quite a bit. The most common mistake is honestly putting too much information into one post. Less is often more. And if you can focus on one topic or one strategy for one post at a time, that's going to give your audience not only the understanding of what exactly you're trying to convey to them, but it's also going to keep them coming back to get more of those insights, to get more of that information. The mentality of posting a lot of things in one, it really lends itself to followers tuning you out or wanting to stop follow you or being overwhelmed with all of the information they're being inundated by, right? Most people aren't going to social for that. So I would say keeping things simple, pared down, and focusing on, the most specific topic or idea that you can at a time is best. Humanizing yourself is also really, really important. So a lot of people know how to do this now. And it's been talked about highly where you have to put your face in front of the camera. People do want to see who you are, right? What you look like, how you're talking, how you come across, how it would be to meet you in person. People love that. But there's different ways in which you can even do this, to be honest. Some people maybe aren't going to be as comfortable being on camera all the time or wanting their photo. That's okay. Maybe it's a video tour then of a house or of a property, or a video of your office space and kind of behind the scenes on what the day looks like and your voice is in it. A lot can come across through that as well. So don't feel like just because you don't want to have your face always present that you can't still humanize your brand. You definitely can. The mentality is the things that make you unique as a person are actually really beneficial for online. People love it when brands are humans and they're not, these perfect idyllic things that are, robotic in nature. People want to kind of see the flaws and see the energy that you provide from yourself and your business. And that helps you really stand out for the mentality of sales. I always love to encourage people to try something new. If there's a new application on a different platform, when Reels first came out, and it's very clearly TikTok, but now on Instagram, try it out. Do something new. If it doesn't work, that's okay. But at least you're giving your audience another aspect to kind of relate to you and see something interesting. And then it is very, very important to map out this marketing. So making sure that you are aware of kind of what you want everything to look like for at least a month out. Ideally, you would be looking at something like a year. Maybe then you can get it as in depth as saying, okay, I know when the market is rising and falling, or I know when people are specifically looking for these type of properties or these opportunities. And I know something that's coming up in a few months, right? So I'm going to build up to that. But having kind of a map and an overarching strategy for how it's going to look is really, really important. And that can always change. Maybe you start one way and you look at it and you see it and you judge the insights and engagement and you say, okay, this isn't working. I have to flip something. But don't be afraid of making that change. Staying consistent is mainly just about continuing to log on. So I know social media can be really overwhelming and time consuming and sometimes frustrating, but nobody got, the tens of thousands of followers or engagement from one post or one like. It's about the brand building itself. It's about you being consistent with providing that content. And when people show up to your page and it's more than just one or two or the first two posts that they look at and like and relate to, when they're able to scroll through your content and find several different things, that's what's going to win them over to your business. So really being consistent about, maintaining your presence, posting as often and as, well as you can, and making sure to stay consistent in your engagement too. People love to post nowadays things on like their one-off business profiles, and they'll say, sorry, I haven't posted in a while. And it's like, nobody knew you were gone. Nobody was missing you. But don't say that, right? Choose to engage. And when something happens, you have to take time off, fine. But definitely don't announce that to your followers. Prove to them kind of that brand of consistency. And essentially, so this is finishing us up here. I'm just going to go over some other statistics about social media generation. So 84% of social media users are 18 to 29 years old, or I should say 84% of 18 to 29-year-olds are social media users. Maybe that makes more sense. 81% of 30 to 49-year-olds have a social media profile. 73% of people aged 50 to 64, and 45% of those aged 65 or older are on social media. So you can pretty much see that this does span a pretty good range, right? When you're looking at who your clientele is and who you would be marketing to, this really does cover a lot of your target audience. Still to this day, Facebook is the most popular. More people have profiles, at least on Facebook, than they do on other platforms. So that is still a relevant social media site. I know some people are only wanting to go and focus on the newest stuff, and it's cool and important to do that. But definitely don't feel like nobody is looking at Facebook anymore. It's still the highest ranked out of any social platform. But I just wanted to touch on the idea that basically through this, followers are just that, and not in a negative way, but people follow what other people are interested in, right? If my friend recommends something to me, a new drink at the coffee shop, I might go and try that because they told me that it was great. People kind of want to be engaged and want to be a part of the team, what other folks are a part of. So the mentality is to kind of just zone in and figure out which of those three categories we mentioned, the reaction, amplification, and direct response, which of those you're getting from engagement right now. And if you're getting all three, that's awesome. How do you increase it? If you're only getting one, maybe just reaction, how and what strategies are you going to use to kind of keep going up that ladder? But to then just focus your energy on building that brand, to not get too bogged down with only seeing maybe a slow climb of followers or a slow climb of people engaging. That's okay. The important thing is for you to build the content so that when people do land on your page, then they press like, they press follow. And doing this in the simplest fashion is really just to put yourself in the audience shoes. So figuring out what things your clientele is interested in, what are the reasons that would draw them in as a consumer to your business in general? How are you different? What does that look like on profiles? So I tell people to usually follow at least 5 people that are doing exactly what you're doing, but have, over 1 million followers. Then follow probably 10 people that are doing exactly what you're doing in business, but have somewhere underneath 500,000 followers. And then follow 10 people that are doing exactly what you're doing, and whether they're doing it well or they're doing it really poorly, but they have about as many followers as you do too. And see what they all do. See how people engage and interact with them. It's interesting because I think that there's a lot of insights that can come on just being a social media user. And so making sure to keep those people in your viewpoint and to learn from it, feed off of the engagement that happens on their content is important too. There are often times where people will find you and follow you through those. So very good thing to kind of keep in mind. That's all that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for being here.